Welcome, everyone, to our hot topic, maternal health, presented by Needed. I am your moderator today, Molly Pross. This is definitely a topic near and dear to my heart that I think a lot of women here can identify with in their own experience. I was the founder of a maternity concierge business called Bump Bestie about 5 years ago, filling the gap really for women in their transition to parenthood, mostly first-time parents, and connecting them with experts and resources in the postpartum stage, as well as curated products, education, and just a really holistic way for women to transition to parenthood and everything that comes with that. More recently, I'm the co-founder of a company called Saint, which is a member community for single, co-parenting, and divorced moms. Maternal health is definitely something that's needed in that stage of life as well. So I'm really excited to welcome everyone here. I'm joined by an incredible group of women, including the founder of Needed, Julie Sawaya, Dr. Phabillia, which I had checked with her earlier just to know how to pronounce her name. And she was just like, just think of fabulous. And I was like, great. I will never forget that. She's a board certified OBGYN with a holistic approach to women's healthcare and a Needed advisor. We also have Miss Adonica Shaw at the end, women's reproductive health advocate, 4-time TED Talk speaker, doula, integrative health coach, and CEO of Wing Women. And last but not least, we have Laura Gimbert, certified doula, prenatal, and postpartum educator. We're super excited to dive into this topic, so let's get started because I know we're short on time. Let's start talking about the state of maternal health care in the U.S. today. What does that mean to you? And would love to know how that kind of applies to your expertise and why you got into what you do.
We all gonna rotate?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Well, I am the only non-practitioner on stage, but I started Needed with my co-founder, Ryan, out of the realization that pregnancy is the most nutritionally demanding time in a woman's life. It's also the most, I would argue, demanding time overall, emotionally, physically, mentally. It's a huge transition. I think many of us here are mothers or hope to be mothers someday. And it was shocking to us to realize how under-resourced women are in this stage, how under-supported nutritionally they are. And, you know, I think it's wonderful that we're having this discussion and that, you know, the state of maternal and really infant well-being is such a focus. But the reality is in the U.S., from nutrition to healthcare outcomes for women, and especially for those in communities that are underserved by access to quality healthcare, there's a lot that can be improved upon. You know, we have one of the worst maternal and infant mortality and morbidity states of any country in the world. And I think we are all really lucky to be in LA where we have access to awesome practitioners, choice about where to birth your baby, access to integrative practitioners who are really focused on the holistic well-being of women. But that's not the case for all women. And so I think this is a really important discussion, and I'm excited to hear what others have to add.
Yeah, thank you. So for me, I have seen that, you know, OB cares or, you know, healthcare providers just see you as a number most of times. You know, you're in and out of the appointments and there's just really no chance for you to even ask questions or come up with questions because they don't give you that opportunity or you don't feel empowered. It's very cold. So that was what I wanted to change, becoming a doula and just empowering women to ask those questions and really ask for what you need and not what they think you need, because obviously we have a lot of options out there. So just educating women from preconception through the whole pregnancy, birth preparation, and postpartum about being your best advocate and knowing what options you have, because that really has to change. It's not a one-size-fits-all. You have options, and we should be heard as well. So.
Hi, I like to call myself Phabillia, and the reason for that is because a lot of people say, why don't you call yourself Dr. Afflack? And I said, well, Phabillia holds all of my identities. So when I approach my patients, I approach them with a holistic mindset, meaning I come in as a doctor, as a mother, as a sister, as a friend. And so because the holistic aspect of medicine is not treating the person simply by their body and, as you said, as their number, but rather as a woman goes into motherhood, that's another identity that we're bringing into ourselves. And so we're very vulnerable, but actually we're also very powerful. And I'm there to remind you of that. So what I hope in medicine right now, because as you can see, I wanted to be an obstetrician and gynecologist since I was 8 years old. This is a calling for me. It is not a job. And therefore, I want to make sure that the collaboration of care, that we surround the women and basically help her and support them, whether it be through nutrition, through support in every way, and I say midwifery and doula. We're all a team. We're all for the same team. So I'm hoping to bridge the gap of both medicine and everything else. So.
So my journey to this stage started about 6 years ago. When I was pregnant with my youngest, I was diagnosed with preeclampsia at 34 weeks. Within about 12 hours of diagnosis, I was required to deliver. Within a few days of an otherwise safe delivery, my son, who was in the NICU and I was in the ICU, experienced a number of challenges. For myself, I experienced and clearly survived a code blue, which not only marked the end of that particular lived experience, but the journey to the stage here today. And since that time, I started to actually ask questions around, like, what is maternal health? Because at the time I didn't know what a doula was. I didn't know what a midwife was. And so through my process, just really learning about other women who had severe lived experiences, I went back to school, learned how to develop code, and launched my company Wing Women, which is a femtech startup which provides access to prenatal and postnatal reproductive health literacy programming and health conscious health coaching for women that are in the postnatal or fourth trimester period.
I think we all have our own stories, if you are a mother, of what worked really well and what didn't work well when you have that time for reflection. You know, so many of us go in with this birth plan and we're like, great, you know, let me do all of these things, and it doesn't work out that way. And there takes some processing with that as well. What do you think is working well? What do you think needs to be improved? And how can women be better advocates for themselves in pregnancy and childbirth, but more importantly, in the years following childbirth? I feel like there's kind of a disconnect in that stage of maternal health as well. Does someone want to take that question?
Okay, so there's education, empowerment, education, empowerment. Ask questions. There's no such thing as, if you can't ask a question to your provider, then you should run. Because why can't you ask a question? And why don't you find the information? Now, what I often tell people, information alone, without the understanding of that information, that's where you go and you seek your advisors, equals wisdom. Information without understanding, fear and worry. We're right now living in a very fearful time. Everybody's afraid of everything. And so we cannot function on fear, and we should not make decisions based on fear. We should make decisions based on information and understanding, and a place of empowerment and not fear. Because parenthood, it's fearful. I don't know. My kids are teenagers now, and I just took my daughter to have a license. I'm afraid. So I'm just saying that we should not make decisions based on fear. We should be educated and allow our souls to rest in that peace and make decisions based on that.
In terms of what I think is working really well right now is like the awareness of using doulas and how they can be incredibly beneficial to first time, second time, third time parents. I believe the statistic is only 6% of the population was using them, but at the beginning of this year, they're actually a covered benefit under Medi-Cal, if I'm not mistaken. And so the fact that more women have a pathway to use them is tremendous. And so I think that that's something that's working very well. In terms of areas where I think we could see progress, and part of the reason why I went back to school to become a midwife is the fact that the midwifery model of care has more touch points in the postpartum period. So with a midwife, they see you at 24 hours, they come to your house. You have a visit with them usually at 1 to 2 weeks, another one at 3 to 4 weeks, and then of course your 6th week. And so for women who have had, and I'll just speak to my own experience, if you've had some adverse experience during your birth, you've had birth trauma, or if honestly you just need a little bit of extra love and support and somebody to come check on you, I think it's very, very beneficial, and it gives women additional touch points to get answers that they may not get answered, because just traditionally speaking, that 6-week checkup has been the only way to get a response out of your provider. And when you have regular communication with a doula or a midwife, if you will, I just think that there's a lot of benefit to having those additional periods of time that are dedicated purely to your own mental and maternal health.
And also something that is not working, I feel like it's the postpartum care, because as she mentioned, we have probably 2 appointments through postpartum and we're quickly dismissed once again. They're, okay, you're good to have sex, good to work out, but do you jump into it? No, it's not like that. So the education behind how to ease into it and how to truly heal, because it takes years, not just 6 weeks, and emotionally too, because there's no support. So thank God, slowly, there's more of us that do provide that support, but just, it shouldn't be up to us to learn and seek it. It should be more provided to us. So slowly we're doing it.
Yeah. I would say that I think probably what is missing the most right now, from my experience of going through pregnancy and birth, and also being on the other side of it, working in my most recent pregnancy with an OB in connection with a midwife, I think we need more integration of practitioners. The average, most women in the U.S. are seeking out maternity care, maternal health care from an OB, and the average OB appointment time is 7 minutes long. That's just not enough time to cover all aspects of your health and well-being during such an important, critical time in your life as pregnancy. And in a perfect world, in other countries, obstetrics works in connection with midwifery. Midwifery is the model of care for low-risk pregnancy, and obstetrics is available for high-risk pregnancy. And also nutrition, it's generally not, and I say this as someone who comes from a family of MDs, I have so much respect. Dr. Afflack knows this. I think the medical profession is amazing, but it's not intended to be the core nutrition focus. Registered dietitians are, the kind of whole discipline was designed to be paired with MDs. So MDs are the medical expert and RDs are the nutrition experts. And most women who are going through the healthcare system in the US right now are just, they're not seeing an RD. It's not offered. It's not part of the curriculum. So women are left with a lot of unanswered questions. So if I could change anything, it would be like integrating, bringing more of a focus on preventative wellness, more of that like low risk. How do we stay low risk? How do we integrate some of the best aspects of the midwifery model of care along with obstetrics, and bringing nutrition in with all of that, I think would make a really big difference for women and for the health of their babies.
There's been so much innovation in this space in particular just in the last 6 years. I have a 6-year-old son, and I remember I just took like the regular prenatal at Whole Foods. I never took a postnatal. And now we're seeing brands like Needed, the importance of having a doula, midwifery, kind of, home birth, different approaches to childbirth and, just the entire journey to motherhood. Are there, and also I just feel like there's just overwhelming information out there when it comes to the type of approach resources. And it's one of the reasons why I started my business initially, because it's overwhelming. There's too many opinions out there. You have your girlfriends, you have Google, you have Amazon, you have YouTube. What are some key resources? I think in general, we all agree that education and empowerment is super important. But what are some of your favorite resources or things that you've found that can help a woman in any stage of pregnancy, postpartum, and beyond?
My favorite one is your own intuition, because as you mentioned, there's a lot of overwhelming education out there, and I provide education too. But what I want you to know is that the answer is already in you. So I provide you with information and different options, but ultimately what you have to do is what feels right for you, because that's your story, your path, your baby. And that's the first step to motherhood, right? So you're going to be able to make decisions with intuition through the whole journey. So it's really important to listen to it from pregnancy and know that there are tons of options and nothing is right and wrong. It's just what's right for you and your baby. So just getting educated, but ultimately making the choice that just feels right, and also be okay with making some mistakes and feeling, okay, well, this is not for me. I'll try something else. So that's my biggest tip.
I guess one of the things I would say is, like, sometimes too much information is a problem. And who is influencing you, in the words? We tend to want to compare each other's and compare stories. I even say to people, every pregnancy is its own, even if you are the common denominator, So your birth, you're not carrying the same person. So that person that is in you is a different person from before. So your pregnancy will also be different. One of the other things is, this is why for my practice, when I hear you guys, and I hope this is changing, I believe in collaborative care. I believe in the UK model of care. That midwifery should always be the first. And most of the people go into midwifery. Obstetrics, the word means assist. You only need, and midwives were there before obstetrics. They were there. That's the long term, right? Because they were called sage-femme. Those are women that are surrounding by women, and they delivered. Obstetrics came into the hospital, and women were not allowed to be in the hospitals, because we couldn't be doctors, right? So whatever with that. We're going to leave that alone. We're going to leave it alone. We're going to move forward. And then obstetrics comes in, but midwives did obstetrics too. And that's to assist into delivery. We don't do the birth. You do the birth. Nobody's doing. And you have two participants, the mother and the baby. So it's coming into alignment. Why do I use doulas, midwives, nutrition? I use it all because you need it. And that's the model of care that is needed in America. I call COVID the Great Awakening, because this is what happened. The Great Awakening is like people realize, oh no, this should be different. And guess what? People are going after and looking for that. So that's, congratulations, people.
Just, I guess, in terms of tips or resources to utilize, there are a lot of options, but I would say even before you start asking your friends and family for recommendations, figure out what your baseline is, figure out the apps, the model of care, the kind of care provider that you prefer first, so you understand what your baseline is before you just start taking advice from other people. Pregnancy is one of those things where everybody's willing to give you advice, and sometimes they don't even realize they're giving it to you from the place of what went wrong with them, and you deserve to have somebody show up for you in a way is what's going to go right for you. And so if you take the time to really understand what your baseline is in advance, what type of model of care works for you, beliefs, apps, all of that, even if you don't go tell other people, I think that that's a really amazing way to kind of approach it, and one that will help you. I think she made a comment around finding intuition. It will bring you back to your intuition if somebody's telling you something that's misaligned with what you already know in your gut. So that would be my piece of advice.
Yeah, a few of my favorite resources for education in a relatively, I would say, unbiased point of view. Evidence-based birth. They have a podcast and a website. It's amazingly well researched. It presents all facets of a topic like GBS in pregnancy. Do you take probiotics? What do you do to prevent it? Like, should you take antibiotics during labor? It's like a very well organized, well researched resource. So that's one of my top ones. The Business of Being Born. It's a great documentary. I would say kind of a seminal education on the state of childbirth in the U.S. It was eye-opening and influential for me in making decisions about, my preferred birth plan. It's always a plan and not necessarily how it goes, but I think that's a great one to just be educated on. And then the other, I think, a huge benefit of COVID, like what we're describing here of having an OB and a midwife and a nutritionist, that comes with an expense, and it's not always covered by insurance. So I think what's amazing is that there are now so many practitioners who are highly skilled and very good at educating, and they're doing so on formats that are easily accessible, like Instagram and TikTok. That's not an endorsement of everybody who's educating on those platforms, but you can generally find some really high quality resources. Some that we like at Needed are Mama Stay Fit for childbirth education, the prenatal nutritionist who has a prenatal nutrition library. She's an RD. Mama Stay Fit, their labor and delivery nurse, and doula, who are a sister duo. So I would say seek out those free resources that are backed by practitioners and have a non-judgmental tone to them.
I love that. I'd love to open it up to questions. We have about 5 minutes left, and I want to make sure we touch on anything that has come up for the group. And if we don't have questions, anything that we haven't touched on as a panel, if there's anything that comes to mind that you want to make sure to touch on. Question? One sec.
Hi, thank you guys. It's really wonderful to hear. I'm getting choked up for some reason with things you're saying here. But I have a question about, I feel like I had a successful C-section birth and was not my preference, but I definitely let the fear, get in the way of that. And as I think about a potential second pregnancy and what I would do, and I guess my question is, I know in the midwifery care model, age is not considered a high risk, or that's what I've been told. But for some of us, we're past the, advanced maternal age at 35. I'm over 45. So I guess for me, I don't know where to find those resources of for that age, where some of those risk factors might be, instead of just getting caught with what the, So yeah, I'd love to hear if some perspective on that.
This is where I really have a problem with the age, because there's chronological age and there's your body age, right? I mean, I've seen 20-year-olds that are not fit at all, And then I've seen 40, 50-year-olds that are better fit than me. So I would never induce or force or do it. I would still allow the physiological birth to occur. Because, I can't say what I would use, but they're all natural stuff that you can do to get into the process of labor. Again, my focus is holistic. So I will try all of their natural and aid in that. I will use the acupuncturist. I would use a massage therapist. We'll use all those things to help your body to awaken itself and to go as move forward. What I want you to say, when you ask your doctor, ask them, is my baby okay? Am I okay? Can I wait? And if there's a lot of times they're not comfortable. And and that uncomfortableness is projected into you. And all of a sudden, now you're scared. But that didn't belong to you. You got to make sure that's where the doula is good. Okay? Because then your doula is there supporting you throughout the whole time empowering you and be able to rest your soul. So now you can make that decision and not feel like, am I a bad mother? You're not a bad mother. You're actually a lioness that's being awakened. That's what you are. Okay? You're a lioness that's being awakened and protecting her cub. That's what you're doing. Okay? Good.
Did we have another question? Hold on.
Mine is more of just like a practical thing. When I was going to a birth center, but then I was told my baby was going to be like 11 pounds, so they made me go to the hospital. And I was kind of hoping that my midwives would be able to come, but they couldn't come over to the hospital, and so I was with an OB I didn't really know, and it was a mess. But I was having trouble in the whole process. My ideal would be like a midwife in a hospital, and I wanted to do a water birth, but that was like basically illegal here is what I was told. So I don't know if anything's changed. My daughter's 5 now, so I'm thinking about having another baby, but I wanted to know if there's any options that are better suited to being in a medical space, but being on the natural side.
Does UCLA still have a midwifery unit?
Well, so I want to point out a few things because I think you started and you mentioned that when you were referred or you were transferred to the hospital, the midwife couldn't come. So a few things like, I love that she is so midwife friendly, but that is very rare. So it's very rare. So it's not surprising or alarming that the midwife couldn't come with you because traditionally, at least in the United States, that's two different models of care. A midwife could potentially have gone to the hospital with you as a doula, but if they go in, even if they're a licensed midwife, traditional midwife, what have you, they are not the decision maker in the medical environment. At the point they go into the medical environment, they yield to whomever the doctor is. So there's that. In terms of the birth weight, I think a misconception around midwifery is that we just make decisions purely around what we want to do or not do. But we have standards of care that we are responsible for upholding. And so at a point at which a patient risks out of care, we're required to follow a set or sets of protocol. I see. I see. I'm not able to speak to that. Yeah, and so that's kind of just what I wanted to point out around that. But water birth is a beautiful thing should you decide to, like, I don't know, I love water births, but if it's something that you pursue in the future and you're able to find a midwife or midwives that are willing to work with you, I think go for it because it's just a beautiful way to bring a baby into the world.
I just wanted to add that it's changing. It's there because one of the things that I started doing home births. So I am a physician that does home birth, hotel births, birthing center births, hospital births. I do all the births. I want to emulate the model of care of the UK. It's really midwifery, and then after, where do you want to deliver? Okay, I want to offer that opportunity for women to do. Now, she's very right in saying that I am a unicorn, as a lot of the midwives say I'm a unicorn. But they're awakening, you know, and it has to start. So I'm going to start going to the medical schools because the problem is that, again, the fear is over there. And to change that mindset is hard. So I got to start from the inception, right? From where it starts, not to be afraid. But it's coming there. I have my residency was run by midwives. I learned to do deliveries with midwives. That's who taught me how to do deliveries. We had water births, we had all this, and that was in New York. But my chairman was from London, and he was trained from London. So his whole model was when midwifery, and he just basically just let it happen. One of my other colleagues, she now opened a birthing center with a midwife, a collaborative care down in Del Mar. It's called Moxie Birth. So I'm saying this, that it's changing, okay? Of course, we went to the same residency, you know, so we're from the same breed. But slowly but surely, have hope. It's there, okay?
And to add to that, for your next baby, just remember you're the one in charge of interviewing your providers. So don't let them tell you what to do, but interview them. How do you feel comfortable delivering babies out of the hospital that are on the bigger side, 9 pounds, 10 pounds? Do you feel comfortable with that? Because I'm probably going to get there again, you know? So just interview them and ask questions so that you prevent future issues like that one, and just get second opinions as well. Because see, the baby wasn't 11 pounds, so then you can get a second opinion. So just, you probably knew already, you're in your intuition, but it's hard because then you feel pressure, and it's such a big deal that you feel, oh my gosh, I have to listen to them, right? But second opinions can never hurt, and interviewing them and asking all these questions. Yeah.
I think that's all the time we have for today. I quickly just wanted to go down the line. Where can people find you? Website, Instagram, and then we're going to transition to, I think, gut health with Dr. Patel. So stay tuned. And then you guys are around today. If you guys have any more questions, I'm sure you can find everyone on the main floor.
Yes, so you can find Needed at thisisneeded.com and on Instagram at Needed, just one word, Needed.
You can find me on Instagram, laura.gimbert, Gimbert.
You can find me on Fabulous Care. So I'm Phabillia, Fabulous Care.
My company name is Wing Women, and so it's mywingwomen.com.